The answer is actually all of above. So I believe everyone aware this is actually a right bundle branch block, because the reason why we say right bundle branch block, just to refresh our memory on undergrad. So there's actually RSR prime pattern on the B1, almost behaving like a William. Sorry, I apologize, Morrow. So when we have a Morrow, William Morrow, then it's a zip of right bundle branch block. At the same time, look at the lead 1, 2, and 3. So you can see the axis slightly difference. We expect to have a normal axis, 1 positive, 2 also positive, and 3 also positive. But from the lead axis, we can see the lead 1 is positive, but the lead 2 and lead 3 is negative. So when we have a lead 2 and 3 negative, almost like leaving each other, is more toward left axis directions. I always tell my students, if you want to differentiate between left axis and the right axis, look at the lead, look at the lead 1 and lead 3. So if the lead 1 and lead 3 is leaving each other, is left axis. And if it's meeting each other, which means that lead 1 is negative, lead 3 is positive, in meeting each other is more to right axis directions. And another thing that I would like to highlight from this ECG is look at the PR interval. By right, the normal PR interval is within 5 small box. This one is more than 5 small box, so suggestive of first degree heart block. So when we're dealing with this, it's more toward bifascicular block with first degree. So previously we always have a term of trifascicular block, but trifascicular block is actually a misnomer. It by right has to have a complete heart block. So it have to have like right bundle branch block at the left axis or right axis, left anterior fascicular or left posterior fascicular block, with left axis or right axis deviation, and with third degree heart block. That's why it's a complete trifascicular block. And why there is complete trifascicular block? Because when they have a right bundle branch block, so you know there's one of the right bundle is blocked, and then when they have either left axis or right axis deviations, pointing toward, if they have a left axis deviations, we know that actually left posterior fascicular is blocked, and if they have the other way around, which means they have the right axis deviation, we know that it's actually the anterior fascicular is blocked. But if they have the first degree can happen at any time, ranging from the sinus node, reaching to the AV node, and then reaching to the ventricular. So that's why in the first degree heart block, it can be many things can cause that, even at the SC node whatsoever. So that's why it's hard to say whether is it trifascicular or not, because if there is a trifascicular block, we expect to have an AV node problem as well. So to complete the trifascicular block. So a bit of management is actually can manifest with syncope, and it's actually a risk factor of death. So that's why in the ESC guideline that 2021, it's recommended that the patient with unanesthetic syncope with bicycle block, pacemaker is actually indicated if the HP prolonged, and at the same time if they have evidence of third degree or influenza block based on EP study, because especially if they have alternative minor branch, which means that they have significant infant disease. So case number 7, I believe everyone aware this is the Ashman phenomenon. Ashman phenomenon previously is not famous, but now it's getting, everyone almost aware that this is Ashman phenomenon. So let's dissect the ECG. So first we can see the RR interval is irregular. When we have irregular RR interval, it can only be few things, and one of it definitely on top of your list definitely has to be AF. But to confirm whether it is AF or not, we look at the P wave, whether is there any P wave or not. We can say the P1, you can say something like almost like a P wave, but it's not like really like a P wave, because by the way, the P wave is supposed to be like a smooth kind of features, but this one is like sharp, sometimes small, it's like fibrillating. So this is what we call fibrillating wave. So in Ashman phenomenon, so it's actually Ashman phenomenon means there's an aberrant ventricular conductions. Just to recap again, our normal conduction starts from the SA node, go to the AV node, and then go to the bundle branch. So if there is a block, or maybe the right bundle is refractory, so the connection will go down to the left bundle, and when that's happened, they can have a right bundle branch morphology. So how is it happened in AF especially? The reason is because they can have a long coupling cycles, followed preceded by aberrant QRS conduction. They can have irregular coupling. As demonstrated here, they can have a long RR interval. That's when the connection is via both bundle branch with left and also right bundle branch. But because of the short RR interval is common in AF, they can have alternating, they can have chaotic kind of features or wavelength. When it becomes short RR interval, the next connection will go to the aberrant connections, which means that via the left bundle, and hence lead to the right bundle morphology and suggestive of Ashman phenomenon. So just a bit of criteria of Ashman phenomenon that defined in 1983 has to have a long cycle preceded by aberrant QRS complex, and the other hallmark is the lack of fully compensatory pause. Because if there's a compensatory pause, more toward PVC rather than aberrant conductions. So one of the answers will be Bayes syndrome. Bayes syndrome is actually an advanced congenital block. Is compared to Ashman, it actually carry more prognostic factors because if they have Bayes syndrome, it's actually with AF or atrial retina. So it's just referring to the Beckman bundle blockage. In normal people, the connection will go to the intranodal branch and then go to the left side via the Beckman bundle. If there is a partial blockage, so the connection, the P wave become prolonged. Like demonstrated here, the P wave is more than 120 with biphasic P wave. It is different compared to bilateral atrial enlargement where the P wave is still within normal limit. But this one you can see the P wave prolonged. And look at the inferior as well, because if they have a complete Bayes syndrome, the connection is go to the below AV node and then going back to the left atrium via the side CS and so on. So when they have a Bayes syndrome complete intranodal block, they will have a negative P wave, the second component of inferior. So the question number 8. So this is someone we came with syncope and then proceed with temporary pacemaker. And temporary pacemaker is actually working fine. So the things that I would like to highlight here actually is demonstrated with two types of morphology. The first one, as demonstrated with the green arrow, green circle, you can see that it's on left bundle branch morphology. And look at the lead 2 is almost different actually compared to the one I highlighted as the blue arrow. So this is actually a pace beat. As you can see, maybe you can little bit see that maybe there's a pacing beat, a bipolar beat, especially at the V2. Okay, and look at the morphology is different compared to the intrinsic at the lead 2. And this is actually the intrinsic beat, and this is the pace beat because you can see the pacing beat. But the one that the TPM is working fine because it's following the template that it's supposed to follow. So first, we can detect the intrinsic beat. So that's why it's not doing anything. But so this one we consider as descents. But after a rate of 40, which I said that rate of 40, then detect there's nothing there. So that's why it pace the right ventricular, and then that's why we can see the pace beat. And then for the pacing beat, we expect to have a inferior AC because the TPM is actually at the apex. So case number 9, this is the answer is will be SBT with aberrancy. I think this will be highlighted in the next presentations. So just to highlight, this actually is look at the precordial lead. It's actually right bundle branch morphology. You can see the RSR prime pattern, which means the right rabbit here is taller compared to left rabbit here. So this actually, and again, you can see almost like this quadrant as well, positive and then going to negative. And what I highlight in the blue arrow is looking at the retrograde P wave. When you have a retrograde P wave, which means the P wave is negative in inferior lead, the most likely is to have to be a re-entrance, because when you have a re-entrance, the retrograde will have the inferior will have a negative P wave because it's either antidromic or orthodromic. Both will come up, the P wave will come up negative. Okay, so this is SVT aberrancy. Okay, so the last questions for intermediate is case number 10. So this, I believe everyone can appreciate this, almost like a Brugada lead ECG. Okay, we can see the ST elevations more than 2 millimeter box. But then again, how is it to differentiate between type 1 or type 2 or type 3? So because it's almost like a camel shape, but it's almost like a cove. So what I did actually, I proceed with Brugada lead ECG. So that's why I said the answer is will be to determine the type of Brugada lead morphology. Best actually to repeat with Brugada lead ECG. So as demonstrated here, I will show you what I mean by Brugada lead ECG. So the V3 is instead of V3 rather than at the between V2 and V4. So V3 is actually put above the second intercostal at the above V1, so in the right side. Okay, and V5 actually is put at the second intercostal the left side above the V1, above the V2. So like this, and then it's actually when we got the Brugada lead, you can see it's behaving like type 1 because you can see the curve ST changes, curve ST elevations, and then Q equations behaving like type 1. So this is right type 1, but you have to get Brugada lead ECG to confirm whether it is type 1, type 2, or type 3 because the hallmark of type 1 diagnostic of Brugada is actually S3 elevation with comb as essential elevation compared to type 2 and type 3. Okay, so I believe we're reaching the end of our presentation.